Yeah, during your conversation that you had with Joe Rogan on his podcast, you said that we really like to get out of our own heads, which I thought was really interesting. Hence the use of intoxicants. Might be a bit of a philosophical question, but since you do teach philosophy, I can ask you this. What are we trying so hard to escape from?
This is a trickier question.
Nice.
Consciousness is a good thing. So my ability to use my prefrontal cortex to monitor my behavior and tell me if I'm talking for too long or I we're out of time and I have an appointment I need to get to. Or this kind of self surveillance and self regulation that we're engaging in all the time is really important. We need to be successful adults. We need to do this, but it's exhausting. It takes a lot of energy. And so I think there's just something appealing about losing that self-control, taking a little vacation from self-monitoring. And there's lots of ways we could do that. So we can get into that state by play. So, when we play a sport, we play a game, or even when we participate as spectators in a game. So we watch the World Cup, or we watch a TV show, or get absorbed in a story, or we read a novel that's very gripping that gets us involved and out of our heads. That's pleasurable. So humans seem to enjoy taking a break from ourselves. And I think it's probably just a cognitive version of why we like to sit down every once in a while. We just get tired, and it's nice to sit on the couch and rest. I think that having a drink, playing a game, watching TV, going to the theater, these are ways, it's the cognitive equivalent of resting on the couch or lying down for a bit. We're tired of
Yeah.
running our PFC all the time and we just want to turn it off. So I think that's part of what's going on.
That sounds kind of reassuring. All right, drawing to a close. I'm a big fan of. I gotta ask you this. I'm a big fan of Bohemian characters, especially this type of 19th century trope of an alcoholic artist. I just read about the famous French painter Toulouse-Lautrec, who was not only a very heavy drinker, but invented his own cocktail, which I believe he just mixed cognac and absinthe into a tall glass wine. I think he called it the Earthquake.
That sounds terrible.
Just watching people like drink in movies. Also,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen Mad Men, the TV show, but the best part is just how Don Draper, the protagonist, and his colleagues are just sipping whiskey,
Yeah.
at every meeting, dressed in suits, like every afternoon.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the book, you also mentioned one of my favorite movies, The Big Lebowski, I think. I mean, would he be the same without sipping on white Russians all the time? Probably not, right? So what makes
Right.
just seeing somebody drink in a piece of art so appealing?
Well, I think so. These portrayals of artists is just part of this trope where we associate creativity with alcohol or cannabis, and that's not a myth. There's actually a good reason we have that association. So that's part of it. You see these creative types. In the business context, business drinking. In the case of Mad Men, it's partly for creativity, right? Partly they're trying to come up with new ideas. They are in a creative profession. But partly it's the bonding thing. This is why people in businesses that aren't necessarily creative still use alcohol in business functions. It's a way to relax everyone, get them to feel better about each other. Um, so I think it's interesting because part of what I'm arguing against in Drunk is looking at alcohol purely from a medicalized point of view. So our
Yeah.
public discourse on alcohol is purely medicalized. It's all about its physiological impacts. And if you are looking at alcohol that way, the only safe amount to drink is probably zero, or at least it's not very much. And that's the conclusion of these famous studies that have come out recently in Lancet, this British medical
Yeah.
journal. Um, and yet, if you look at popular culture, if you look at movies, if you look at literature, if you look at the way real people actually behave in their real lives, we make a role for intoxicants and we enjoy intoxicants. We enjoy characters who are using intoxicants because we recognize implicitly that they play a function in our lives. They help to make humans human. And so I think that the problem is we're not articulate about what those functions are. We know they exist, but we don't think about them consciously. And we probably never sat down and thought, oh, this is why I use alcohol on a first date or something. Why do your first date, you don't go and do meth together, right? And you don't even drink coffee or smoke a cigarette. You have a glass of wine. That's not an accident. It's doing something socially important. So the what I hope will happen with drunk is that by laying out explicitly what these functions are and what the adaptive challenges are that they're trying to solve, we'll be more articulate about why and when we use alcohol. We'll be more conscious of the ways in which alcohol use can go sideways, where it can go awry and become dangerous. And then we'll be in a much better position to make an intelligent decision about whether or not we're going to use alcohol, and if so, when and how much. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just articulate why we find intoxicants appealing and we find characters use intoxicants appealing. We need to get more articulate about this.